I found a show on Netflix called Kibble and I don't think I'll see tomorrow because of it. Since the start of this whole quarantine thing, I've been watching a ton more Netflix. Some days I don't ever leave the couch. I just lie there with my dog Randolph, binging season after season from morning until late at night. Once I start a show, I always finish the series, no matter how dumb or dull. It's gotten to the point where all the shows blend together and I find myself wondering if a series I watched really happened, or if I just imagined it. That's why I'm reaching out to you guys, to make sure I'm not going insane. Have any of you seen a Netflix original called Kibble? Late one night, I think it was last weekend, I had just finished this depressing docu series. It was about some murderer, forget who. Anyway, as soon as the show ended I received a pop-up with suggestions for other shows to watch. The first one was called Kibble. It had some boring thumbnail icon that just showed a pine tree or something. I didn't click on it. Netflix did its dumb autoplay thing where you have 3 seconds to choose to watch the credits or go to a new series, and since Kibble was the first option and I was too lazy to reach for the remote, it just started playing automatically. Kibble starts with the usual Netflix logo, then no other credits. The whole episode is shot at Netflix's headquarters in Los Gatos, California, a sprawling box-like building with hundreds of massive glass windows. It's late afternoon, or early morning, hard to tell, but the sky has a weird half-light. It's deep blue, almost purple, like twilight. There are no people around. The building complex looks abandoned. There's no music in the episode and barely any dialogue or SFX. Mostly all you hear is the sound of bubbling water. Kibble starts with some pretty weird, but otherwise innocuous stuff. A series of panning shots of sunlight reflecting off the company's windows with accompanying lens flare close-ups of tree leaves blowing in the wind at varying frame rates. Another close-up of a running fountain. Presumably the source of the bubbling sound. A human hand moves through the water in the fountain, caressing it. Water drips off its perfectly manicured fingers. The next shot introduces the owner of that manicured hand. He has a glowing green spiral in the middle of his forehead. It's the first thing you notice about the tall, handsome man. Other than that, he's dressed in all black and always has an intense look about him. The show never reveals his name through dialogue or description, so I'll just call him Spiral from here on out. The first shot of Spiral is just him staring into the camera, as if his dark, deep-set eyes were trying to bore through my TV screen. Then, very slowly, his face cracks into a wide grin. He has incredibly chiseled features and his skin is so smooth it's almost like plastic. All the while, the spiral in his forehead flickers. Its color remains green, but its vibrancy keeps changing, as if the settings on my TV were out of whack and automatically readjusting. After this unnerving introduction, there are a bunch of scenes of Spiral doing random things around the exterior of Netflix headquarters. Some shots are sped up, others are in slow motion. Most are without sound. One shot features Spiral typing on a laptop computer as he moonwalks backwards through a courtyard. Another shows him jumping between trees planted in a corporate park. Another is him juggling soccer balls at one point. Spiral recites Shakespeare. I think it's a monologue from Julius Caesar. He alternates his vocal inflections constantly while speaking. He'll whisper half a sentence, then shout the rest, all while staring directly into the camera. I must admit, I got a pretty good laugh from most of these shots, but I wasn't laughing at what came next. We follow Spiral as he enters Netflix headquarters, but it's not the bright, airy corporate space you'd expect from the pictures on their jobs website. Instead, it looks like a forest inside a giant, dark warehouse. There's no natural light. Everything's pitch black above 12 feet or so and the ground is just dirt, but you can still see row after row after row of these tree trunks, perfectly straight. It reminded me of the pine tree farms I used to drive through in Florida. Spiral calmly walks between one of these rows. The camera stays behind him, filming over his shoulder, video game style. Eventually, he pauses at one particular tree and we see it bark up close, all mottled and rotten. The shot only lasts a split second before we cut to a close-up of Spiral's face. He cracks another sickeningly intense grin. What happens next happens in a series of flash cuts as we hear a cacophony of screams. Spiral jabs his fingers into the tree bark. Blood pours out in rivers as the man starts digging human intestines out of the wood with his perfectly manicured hands. The TV went to static, and I promptly threw up all over my living room rug. Randolph started licking it up before I could get cleaning supplies. I spent the rest of the night hugging my toilet. It felt like I had had food poisoning. The next day, I googled kibble and got no results. However, I found out that streaming services often make special videos to test audio sync and frame rates. These videos will often feature strange visuals and audio similar to the more tame details I described above. Could kibble be a Netflix test video that accidentally went live? I logged back in today and searched for the show. This was the only result. Kibble, show, description. A dog's gotta eat it or it isn't a success. Runtime, 11 minutes. The strangest thing was the number of episodes. The app said there were 182.8 million, far more than any show that's ever existed. But I was only able to view episode 1. It was the same one that autoplayed the other night. I rewatched the episode, but this time I turned on closed captioning to see if anything would show up. Only one phrase appeared on screen. It kept repeating over and over throughout the entire video. Don't read the bark. I know this is a warning, but tell me, if you saw something like that, wouldn't you want to know what was written on it too? I couldn't help myself. When that final scene arrived and Spiral approached the rotting tree, I paused the video to examine its bark. Sure enough, there was something written on it, carved into the bark. The shot happened so quickly, it's impossible to decipher when you're viewing at normal speed. It was my full name and the date I joined Netflix. I unpaused the video, and this time, when Spiral began digging into the bark, I could literally feel my skin breaking. Blood started to soak my shirt. I turned off the TV before anything more happened. I haven't turned it back on since. As I write this, I've wrapped my torso in gauze. The blood loss has finally slowed and I think I'm going to be okay. But my dog Randolph keeps staring at me, and for some godforsaken reason, my hand keeps reaching for the remote. I feel this deep-seated urge to turn on Netflix and finish Kibble. After all, once I start a show, I always finish the series.